It has been a sad, sad week for the entertainment world. A lot of stars have passed on. The lady from Everybody Loves Raymond, she passed away at the age 90. I have actually, it wasn't Everybody Loves Raymond who I saw her starting her acting abilities. It was from her Law and Order episodes. There's always been a comical joke that those TV stars will eventually end up in a Law and Order episode. It seemed to be more true because a lot of stars I have followed over the years actually have been at one point in an episode of Law and Order. Nevertheless, she was still funny in her own way. She was a veteran, and she had passed away during the weekend. No less than 4 days later, it was announced that China had passed away at the age, I believe, of 46. This was not too much of a surprise to a lot of people because she has struggled with drugs over the past few years. She never really recovered due to the situation with Triple H. There's a lot of stories now that's being come up that I will talk about that involves her stint with the WWE as well as a doctor whose life story or has been recently been put in the movies. So that we'll talk about. But the one that really hit home for me, and it always seemed to be the one that when you hear these deaths, another one that's more closer to you seemed to hit home the most. And it's hit home the most to a lot of people who had listened to his music, both past, present, and even now, is hearing the passing of Prince, also known as Prince Roger Nelson. To family members have died at the age of 57. This was a shocker to me because when I came home on Thursday morning, because I work at night times and we had an early leave, came home, took a bath, and pretty much laid down listening to 1010 Wins. 1010 Wins announced that that China had passed away. And I was shocked to hear that. I was shocked to hear that because she was recently, not too far long ago, she made a video on YouTube, and for what I've seen from her appearance, it looks like she was finally coming together. And to hear that she died from a possible overdose, it's very, very sad because she never really have won a battle, and it was very clear that she had relapsed. Now, there's no official word on the autopsy, but a lot of people felt that it was pretty much drug related, especially what the police have found in our home. So hearing that news surprised me. I don't know if WWE have done any specials. I haven't looked at a WWE event in almost 2 years, and I have no plan to go back now. I'm pretty much all but done with wrestling. So I didn't know. I don't know what the WWE have said, if they said anything. They seem to be have turned a cold shoulder with China of late. So I'll get to that because it does play into some of the stuff that I remember, both good and bad, of China. So I went to sleep, and I woke up around 11:30, and I'm hearing Prince music, and it's obviously something to do with Prince. I knew that he had an emergency plane landing that was happening last week, and a friend of mine who was my bunkie had said that Prince passed away. I said, no, he just had a plane emergency landing. He's back on his feet. He had a concert, and then they made an announcement that stunned me, saying that Prince had died at the age of 57. And the first thing that came to my mind is, what, this is a joke? This is a joke. It's not funny. But it wasn't a joke. 1010 Wins had talked about this all day. And the radio stations were playing his music, and they was talking about his life and everything else, and I was just very, very stunned. And this came pretty much out of the blue because a lot of talk shows was talking about China, and no one heard the news about Prince. So obviously they was not. No one had kept them up to date, either because one, they already recorded this, and we was just getting the recorded version of it. But no matter what you heard, this was a shot in the arms for a lot of people, especially in the music world. The last time we had a very huge response like this, that's when we heard the shocking news that Michael Jackson, the King of Pop, have died, and that was a shock to everyone, and this is one of them. And the reason why it is because Prince was not just a singer. He was what I consider to be a true, genuine artist. And all you need to do is look at his resume, and that speaks for itself. His career started in the late '70s before Purple Rain. It catapulted when Purple Rain came out, and it continued to excel. When you hear a Prince concert, you better believe it's going to be a sold out concert. He was a very controversial figure, of course, in the music at that time. And the stuff he did, including what we were talking about at my job with a couple of my acquaintances and associates, I agree. The stuff he have done back then was deemed very controversial and would be looked down upon, and yet he did things and still became more popular for it. Prince was definitely a unique character when it came to his style of music, but he did love music, and he really have paved the way for a lot of people in the music industry. He wasn't just a singer, he was a writer. He wrote a lot of songs, a lot of lyrics for a lot of people in the music industry. Morris Day and the Times, Vanity. He also did some work with Sheila E. There's a lot of musicians that really have been influenced by Prince at one form or another. No question, if you would listen to some of these artists and listen to the beats and the music and the style of what they're going for, you automatically know Prince has something to do with it. He may not be singing along with them, but you can always tell Prince's style just by the way they play their music. And that's very, very big on the situation that he has had with these artists. He also was a person who opened our eyes to a lot of the shady stuff that was going on in the business of music. Music industry is not as all innocent as people want them to believe. To this day, there's a lot of stuff that people don't know that goes on behind the scenes. From after his release of Diamond and Pearls, Prince's name disappeared. I didn't know what happened to the guy. My mom did, and she didn't even tell me. All I know was I was looking for a Prince album one day, and I didn't find it. But what I did find was an album cover with no name and a symbol. I didn't know until way later, until my mom finally told me that he doesn't call himself Prince anymore, and he was called The Artist. And when I was that time, I didn't know there was a lot of legal issue. It wasn't until during the mid '90s where he actually went back to being Prince, where he stayed pretty much. But the reason why was because he was making a statement, he was making a protest that he got sick and tired of not having control of his music, and he was following Warner Brothers. Another thing I didn't know that he actually opened my eyes to, that he didn't even own the right to his name. Prince wasn't his. No, it was not his to own. It was the studios to own, and it was very, very interesting because it really did show you just how much of the business side and how much of a dark business side this business is. And it wasn't until I got older that I realized that some of the antics, some of the styles, is really not them. That's just an image. That's just a facade. But most of the time, the facade is not even owned by them. The illusion of the fame and fortune is just what it is, an illusion, and that there's a lot more to the music industry that I think a lot of people don't know or care to pretty much ignore. There's a lot of stuff goes on, and Prince pretty much brought that out, whether he meant to or not, which I'm pretty sure he did. He brought out so everybody say, hey, look, this is what's going on. This is what you need to be aware of. There was a lot of stories of Prince. Dave Chappelle. A lot of people felt that this Dave Chappelle skit, what he did with Prince, and the day that Charlie Murphy met Prince, was actually something that really happened. That actually did occur. You had Kevin Smith saying some stories, not all good, but very interesting, unique stories about him and his faith. And you also have the situation of how protective he was with his music, which is something that is definitely true. It is very impossible to get a Prince album that's on YouTube. If you get it, you're very lucky, because listen to it, because I guarantee his publicist will be taking it down very, very quick. He's very, very strict on it. But understandably so. He was a person who took pride in his work, but also a person who took pride in making sure he get paid for those who wish to listen or buy it. And many people may have felt that was the darker side to it than anything else, but he was an artist who really valued his work and really valued his time. He may not have been the most easy person to work with, as Kevin James has said once, but he was a person who who took his work very seriously, who took his work very, very uniquely, and he was constantly trying to improve himself. And this is what I always got from Prince, listening to him over the years. Another thing about Prince that I think why people are so sad and heartbroken is he is one of the very few artists that never age with time. What I mean by that is that there are a few artists that comes and goes. You hear their music, they get a very brief taste of fame, but you never hear from them again. They fade out of the limelight, not to be heard because the music is not what it used to be, or they changed the style that didn't quote with their fan base. Prince was one of those old musicians that survived the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and was still going on strong today. He was one of those artists that continued to dazzle fans all across the country. The proof of this is what they're going to do in terms of honoring him. New Orleans is going to do a special tribute to him with a marching band dressed in purple and releasing doves. Very, very good. Spike Lee had done something for them where fans have showed up and showed their support. People in Lima, Long Island have shown their support. There's people all across the country listening to his music. Radio stations doing a marathon. Even the movie theaters, as we speak, as we are re-releasing for a limited time only, Purple Rain in theaters, as paying a respect to the artist. And he is an artist. He is a genius at what he has done. Like I said, there are singers and then there's artists, and you better believe that Purple Rain, Prince is an artist within its own right. And all you need to do again is look at his resume. I was very, very sad to hear him pass. I really was, because he was the first person who actually got me into music. Really got me into music. My mom was a huge Prince fan. She had everything from his albums, and the first thing she bought me was Purple Rain, the soundtrack. A little Walkman, I can always remember the color. It was white, 3 little buttons, cheap headphones, and I was in the Purple Rain in a handmade ghetto swing in the backyard of my old grandmother's house. It was unique, but listening to the music, which by the way I was way too young to be listening to, because Prince music was not kid friendly. As you know, Purple Rain was definitely not all that kid friendly, and all you need to do is listen to Darling Nikki and you understand why. But keep in mind I was young. But what I did love was the way his beats are. The music to this day still is relevant today. It's still relevant. These are music came out in 1984. It doesn't feel like it came out in 1984. That's how great his work was on Purple Rain. It has really been the defining moment of his career. When you look at Prince, people don't realize Prince had albums before Purple Rain, but it's always seemed to be Purple Rain. That's when his career just catapulted to superstardom. Keep in mind, I said this before. You guys can find it on the flashback review section. I was not a big fan of the movie. In fact, I was not a fan of his movie career, period. But he made some hell of a good music. Same thing with Under Cherry Moon. Under Cherry Moon is one of my personal favorites throughout his career. He made even a documentary which showed the talents of Sheila E. and the rest of the rock groups back then. If I got any of the one I least liked, it's going to be Confetti Bridge, hands down. I think that was the one that killed his career in terms of movie series. But again, he bounced right back up with Diamonds and Pearls. I love that song. I had the album when he did the entire soundtrack for Batman. Minus the back dance, I thought that overall the album was very, very good. And as crazy as it may sound, people are always going to remember for that the cheesy bat dance video and the bat dance song. But if you listen to the whole entire soundtrack, minus the bat dance, it is a great, great soundtrack. So yeah, I was heartbroken. He was a big, big part of it. And minus, again, against the movies, I really think the music is really, he will always be remembered for him being a great musical artist. And a perfect example of this, and I don't know if you guys can find it on YouTube or any other social networks. A few years ago, he was honored in the Billboard Awards, and they was going to say they were going to honor Prince, and I was wondering, why are they taking long to honor Prince? Why is this show dragging? And the only reason why I stood watching the show, because I didn't really care for the Billboard Awards, I wanted to see Prince perform. It's been a while since I've seen him on television. It's been a while since I've even heard about his music for a minute. I want to see what he has to do. And finally, they got all the awards out the way, and it's like, okay, they was going to honor Prince, and they honored Prince. He got the Legendary Honor Award. And the honor was even more of an honor to us because he honored that award by honoring us for following him for so long. And he gave one of the best closing in all the award shows I've ever had. I mean, it was phenomenal. It was the first time I seen him with this afro look with these glasses. I'm like, wow, he changed his style. I mean, I'm so used to the jerry curls, and that's how much suspended I am with time. But hearing his music, hearing his new stuff along with his old stuff, it really brings back memories, and it really showed people this is why he's the Prince. This is why he's the man when it comes to rock and roll. This is why he has lasted so damn long in this business. The same thing goes with his performance in the Super Bowl. He rocks. I mean, there's no question what you're gonna get. He's not gonna half-ass it. He's giving you 101% every time. And despite some of the stories that you heard about how much of his how he's too perfective and how much he may is hard to work with and how he sometimes be over religious, like Kevin James says, no question that the man took music as seriously as any other great musician have done, and he has sacrificed so much for the music he has given us. There was some tragedies that he had to deal with. Of course, the lead singer from Randy passed away. He felt that, and of course the stuff that he was going on in terms of canceling his tours, which led to a lot of questions that he may have been more sick and more ill than what a lot of people have known or what Prince had led to believe. Which brings me, unfortunately, to what they report of TMZ. Now, I don't know officially. We won't know anything as I'm speaking right now. We won't know anything for sure until the autopsy has been officially released by the press. But TMZ done something that, although it doesn't shock me, I still wish they should have waited, because people are still in mourning. People are still, in shock of what has happened, and for them to come out and make that allegations, which I'm calling it allegations for now, because one, we don't know where they got this information from, and two, no medical doctor in their right mind is going to step on and say, yeah, I told TMZ that, because that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. You gotta remember this: when it came from medical staff has a obligation to keep medical records private. If a medical doctor comes out and basically give information when they're not supposed to, they'll be held liable. They can get sued. They can lose their license. So even though TMZ may have gotten this information, it may have been a factual information, it will be pretty much kept under the radar. For the simple fact is, the only way you can get this information is from some medical staff in the hospital where he was treated. And if that's the case, which no medical doctor came up yet, at least not to what I'm heard of. That medical doctor is in serious trouble, and you better get their lawyers ready because they can get sued by the estate of Prince, and rightfully so. What am I talking about? In case you don't know, according to 1010 Wins, TMZ have said that the reason that he was treated, Prince was treated because he had to make an emergency landing to the hospital, and he was treated for opium overdose. Don't know where this came from, and it was a bit of a shock because I'm like, opium. I haven't heard that name in a while since I've seen like the old BBC shows. I didn't even know that was even still a thing going on. But the thing really scratched my head and said, how did TMZ find out about this, and how genuine is this report, and who told them? And noticing that now, as I'm speaking about this, because it is Sunday, or going on Sunday, it's about 30 minutes away. It is the 25th of, no, I'm sorry, 24th of October. No, I'm sorry, 24th of April. I got my days all mixed up. If this is true, then they're definitely trying to cover up, because now 1010 Wins saying that they're keeping away from the hospital from that report because they're saying he was ill for some time. They're not saying what TNC is saying, but they're just basically saying that the friend said he was ill. He was treated for pneumonia, and that was the original report, because according to the report that happened about a week ago, he made an emergency landing. He had to cancel some tours, and he was treated for pneumonia, and that was the original report. Now TMZ is coming out of nowhere saying he was treated for an opium overdose. That was one day ago, and one day later. I have not heard since that report since then. But many people said that TMZ knows the reason. I'm like, if TMZ knows it is true, which I'm not going to dispute if it's true or not. I'm just saying this is rumor. But if TMZ knows it's true, you couldn't wait at least a few more days. You couldn't wait till at least until people just get their mind collected. There are people crying on the street about the man. I understand what my sister told me, that you guys are over exaggerating, blah, 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 but there's people who had an emotional impact towards his music. I had an emotional impact towards music. Now I wasn't crying in the streets, but I was kind of shocked that this happened. I'm like, I grew up. That was my first soundtrack was Purple Rain. My first cassette was Purple Rain. My first Walkman to go with that music was Purple Rain. And so Prince was really the true first rock musician that I got associated with, along with a lot of other collections that my mother had. So with that being said, it is a shocker to me because I grew up with the music. I grew up with the sound. And again, it's one of those stupid mindset that these musicians can never age. Like the Dick Clark disease, they will never age. It will never grow old. And which a lot of people are saying that they didn't know how old he was because they never grow old. So for them to come out of nowhere and say, yeah, but you know what? He was treated for opiate overdose. That's why the plane crashed. It's making it sound like you're taking a jab over the legacy of a man who was great at what he did and made a lot of people happy throughout the years he was doing it. And to me, it was a low blow. It's like a very low jab that I don't think TMZ should do. TMZ is known for being that gospel tabloid, but they're also known to actually getting the facts right when it comes to the information, which can lead to ruining a lot of people's careers and livelihood. And that's the thing that really kills me. It's like, did you try to say it because this is actually news, or you're trying to say it to add insult and put a stain in a man's career? Like I said, there has not been no reports of him abusing any drugs of any kind. And we're hearing stories, and this is all yesterday, saying that he went back and forth to drugs because he had a few backache pains, and all this stuff is now coming to the surface. I'm saying, are we sure this is what it is? Because now we're hearing that he was just ill for quite some time. They're not talking about the back pains, they're not talking about the opium, so there's a whole lot of stuff being thrown out there. I'm like, this is why you wait. This is why you wait to see the autopsy. This is why you let the autopsy do their thing. And when the autopsy comes in there and is undisputable, then we can actually go into it. But can you at least let the people mourn? Could you at least let them, hear the music and why they have actually come to love the man who has passed away and passed away still in his prime? I mean, come on, man. I mean, to me, that was just the thing that really bothers me. I said, Jesus, Timothy, you didn't wait. And again, if this is true, you one could only question where to get the information from, because there's only one place you can possibly get it from, and that's the doctors. And if the doctors are telling that, it's told TMZ that, and they sold that story to them, they're in trouble right now. Because one thing I noticed, no medical man has came forward and said, yeah, we told TMZ. They're not stupid enough to do that, because they're going to be in trouble. And to me, that's the thing that bothers me the most. He went to get a medical for a medical emergency. He was reported to have pneumonia, but still, there's a lot of stuff we don't know, and it's to the doctor's responsibility to keep those records sealed. Here, this man has passed away, and TMZ said, "Oh, we know why it is. Like, it couldn't wait to exploit what has happened." And to me, that's just dirty, grimy stuff. All right, and wait. I mean, after the people settle down, after the man is buried, then we can go on and talk about what possibilities, how sick was he really, and basically iron down what could have been happened, and whether or not there should have been signs that everybody should have seen, and constantly help prevent his death. Because he died young to me. He's 57 years old. He died. I never actually knew his age until after his death. So I thought he was in his mid 50s, but he was 57, still young, still in a high career. And how he was found, it was very clear that he was ill. The report said he was found in the elevator, and for what I understood, that as they was carrying him out of the elevator, the report said he was actually dead for quite some time, as they was trying to revive him back in hospital. So pretty much he was DOA, dead on arrival, when he got there. So again, this is a stunner to me. It was shocking to me that this has happened. And I will say this: the fans of Prince, even though there was some crying, there were a lot of people singing for joy, and remembering the good times they had with his music, remembering all the great songs they had, singing his songs in the streets. Harlem was doing this. A lot of places was doing this. Kudos to Spike Lee for announcing he wants people to rejoice in the memory, which you should. He's given us so many good memories. If you're a fan of Prince, he's given us so many good memories. And despite all the stuff that's going to be thrown out there, because pretty much day after day you're going to hear something new, and it's not going to be all positive about Prince. But one thing you definitely could say is, if you're a fan, don't grieve too much. Grieve, but remember the good times. Put on that Purple Rain song. Put on that Under Cherry Moon song. Put it on. Listen to it. Be a joy for it, because he has left a great legacy that will never, ever be replaced. He is one of a kind. Prince Martin Nelson, I salute you, and my hearts and prayers go out to those his families, as well as the rest of his loved ones, and those who are associated with the music industry. Have lost a great legend. And for those who are trying to chop in, bashing the guy's music, all I'm gonna say is this: some of the stuff may be true, some of the stuff may not be true. But the one thing I want to be very clear is, no matter what you may feel about him, there's no denying that the genius he was during the time he was here on this earth, and nothing that the media or that some gospel paper can do to change that. And with that, I'm going to move on. I will keep updates. I will do separate videos as well as updates on Entertainment Roundup, regardless of this story, because it is a very important story. But for now, let's move on. China. Dead at the age of 46. It is a story that was hit first with me. As I was coming in, I was taking a shower, going to sleep, and then they announced that China had passed away at 46. A lot of speculation happened, mostly it was said due to drug overdose. And the reason why it's not as big topic news, well, for one thing, it's Prince. But most importantly, people knew that she had a history of drug problems. I must say right off the bat, China was one of my favorite heels in wrestling. The only other person I put on top of her in terms of her heel ability was the great late Sherry Montel. For those who know, in the WWF days, she was known as Sensational Sherry, Queen Sherry, Sister Sherry. To me, she always just be Sherry, and to me is she was fun to watch. She was one of those heel managers that the wrestler, yeah, it was tough, but it's always that woman who you always have to look out for, and she made being a bad guy fun and entertaining. And that's what I saw China. China seemed to tap into Sherry's style. She didn't have the wrestling chops that Sherry did, because Sherry was a wrestler before she was a manager. And she did that because at the time, women wrestling was drying out, and she had to switch over to survive, and switched over she did. But she was such a fun, wonderful athlete to watch. I love when she wrestled. She was the women's champion for a while, and she was even became more an entertainment when she was a manager. She managed a lot of wrestlers. Macho Man was one. Rick Martel. She managed some other wrestlers before doing that, doing the WWF peak days. She managed Harlem Heat, which was always had some funny moments with them. She was very, very talented. And this is where I saw China. I saw China as that closest we will ever get to a mean girl manager. She was big, she was huge, and she was the Amazon that Triple H had brought into the business. Her success really excelled during the DX days, where she became pretty much slowly but surely came on her own. She made history in the WWE, becoming the first and only woman to have won the Intercontinental Championship. Of course, she had won it with against Chris Jericho. So she has done a lot for the business. And unfortunately, what was happening behind the scenes will always seem to mirror the success she had while she was in her time at WWF/WWE. Let's just start with the first thing that actually has been common. That Triple H was actually dating her in real life. I don't know the extent of that date, doesn't really matter, but it seemed to have brought a bigger rift with Stephanie McMahon. Now, for those who don't know, Stephanie McMahon, for those who don't follow wrestling, Stephanie McMahon is the daughter of Vince McMahon. And for a long time, there has been exhalation that their relationship is not great. To the point that was one of the reasons why she either left or got fired. There was a lot of stuff that was going on. But it seemed to have excuse me, it seems to have caused China to spiral out of control, to the point when I last saw her was actually on the Howard Stern show, and oh my God, she was a wreck. I mean, it was clearly she should not have been on that show. She was a wreck. She was like barely dressed, and it was just not something that you wanted to see from a person who had great potentials, who could have gone even further in the wrestling business, have a lot of stuff behind the scenes happen. It revealed that she was on drugs. It was also revealed that she almost died before on drugs, and she was really much, basically scrambling just to get her life together. She'd been in a couple of porns, which I've never seen, and she has just basically been, doing other stuff. But she never really gotten back to the ring, and mostly because one, the Stephanie McMahon situation, and Vince didn't see the fit. But two, the behind the scene rift that was going on with her, with her drug abuse. She had a huge drug problem, which kept her from actually being picked up, if that was the case, from WWE. However, she did it from the looks of what I was seeing. It looked like she was getting her life back together. It looked like she was starting to finally, rediscover herself. The last video I heard was to pretty much clear up some stuff that was happening with Piper. She went to pay her respect. She actually, from her side of the story, wanted to, to talk to Triple H, say how much she was sorry, and try and get things cleaned up. Of course, there were a lot of stories behind that. But she went on video, and I actually believe her more than anything else. I just think a lot of people wanted to start drama, but she didn't want to do that. And to hear this, her dying at the 46, it's just, wow. It's just, she still had a huge career ahead of her. and it's gone, and it's kind of sad because she was one of my favorite wrestling in a business where women wrestlers was not taken seriously as they should be, and they're not taken seriously even now. She was one of those wrestlers where, her presence was like, okay, you can't, just eye candy her. She is the person that needs to be in the ring, and she's going to be dominant. And to me, that's the memory I have with her. I like to always share the good memories, but she was one of my favorites next to, again, Sherry. And unfortunately, uh, her passing again will pretty much might go unknown by WWE, largely because of her past. It wouldn't be the first time it happened. WWE have done it a lot with some of their wrestlers. One famous one included was Humunga, which was kind of like an insult because he was a very huge, popular wrestler, but was let go under some not so good terms, and hearing that the reason he passed away, it wasn't surprising that they wasn't going to announce his death. So to me, you hope that they did that. I haven't been online for a while, so I don't know if they did that. If they did, and you guys are wrestling fans, you guys may correct me. Maybe they did, and out of pure respect, but I just don't see it. I just don't see them doing it, which is kind of sad. What I am kind of interesting is though, because this actually did report, is that the agent is actually considering donating her brain to science. Now, why would they do this? Well, there's a doctor who you guys know that Will Smith betrayed in Concussion. Now, the doctor had brought to light of a serious condition due to blunt force trauma to the brain, to the point where the injury, the effects are long lasting to the point where it can become even more dangerous. It's, CTE, I believe is what they call it. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. You know what I'm talking about. Now, this is actually very interesting because, again, for those who follow these things, CTE has only been linked to the NFL. And my biggest gripe about that is that you don't tell me the NFL is the only sport that that has this effect. Boxing, you don't tell me boxing, MMA, even wrestling don't have it, especially after the Chris Benoit situation. But now we're starting to see that they are looking into these physical athletic sports more closely, more now than ever. One of the main reasons why the UFC has not been in New York is because of the high concern of concussions that has happened throughout the period of time. Now, good news is they actually will be in New York. I will be talking about that in another podcast. But the point is that that for years they have asked China if anything happened if she wished to donate her brain. There was very serious consideration. She have died, according to reports from the Daily News. They have actually recontacted her, contacted her agents, and is trying to work on a situation where her brain could be studied and be used for science. They hope to find something. I don't know what that is. Mind you, throughout the whole entire career, she never really had gone to the ring long enough to suffer a severe concussion. She was mostly a manager. She did wrestle, but it was very, very limited. But she did suffer injuries. So that's pretty much justified, or at least warned them to at least study her brain and what makes her tick. Whether or not that's going to happen, I don't know. Again, it may not happen. It all depends on the family members as well as what China have signed over. Keep in mind, they just can't just take a brain. If she said specifically, you can do this. Like the same thing if somebody wants to donate a part of their liver or kidneys or anything else, if they want to be a donor in case they died, one has to sign off something, and two, I believe a special type of bracelet or something. I don't know if they still do that. I think a lot of people have complained about that a little bit, but because they said if they this was got scare factor. If certain medical personnel see that bracelet and your serious injury, they may not want to revive you as quickly as one who doesn't have that bracelet on and doesn't know they're a donor. So I could be wrong again. You guys can correct me on that. But for what I understand, what I do understand is that one just can't just take body parts from the deceased. You have to get permission. You have to sign it. It has to be legal backing, like legal documents to back it up. And most importantly, what the family may say. If there is no written documents, they have to probably get permission by the family, and the family may not be too keen on doing that. So it's not just the agents who make that decision. Now, if it's no next of kin, and the agent is the person who has been given legal rights to, then that's a different story. But it's not as simple, it's not as black and white as you see, and that's why they said they're still talking to each other and seeing what they can get done or what can't get done. But in any case, the doctor who is who's wanting the brain is the same doctor who had brought a brain disease to light involving the NFL. So it's fun interesting to see how that will happen. It's also going to be also interesting to see what WWE does. Now, keep in mind, WWE has a history. You can look this up. From Owen Hart's death to all the deaths on steroids and all the young wrestlers dying at young age, they have a history of defending their brand in terms of their responsibilities, what they have done or what their lack of them not doing in terms of steroid testing. So it's going to be interesting to see what WWE, how they will respond to this. If they do respond, because they might not respond, who knows. But it's going to be very interesting to see what the WWE universe will think about this. Because again, when it comes to something like this, the last time this happened, think about this, was Chris Benoit. Chris Benoit was being blacklisted by the WWE, and rightfully so to a certain degree, after he had done murdered his wife and child and then killed himself. Vince McMahon made it no secret that he was going to distance himself from what Chris Benoit did. He did it in a press conference, and we found out more about what has happened just on Chris Benoit's brain. And my God, what they have shown, the man shouldn't have been wrestling. Period. The way the brain was, he had dementia. He had a brain of an 80-year-old man, and that was from constant abuse of being hit in the head, head-butting people on top ropes. It really brought to light just how much of a hazard and how much they're really sacrificing their body and their minds to entertain us in the ring. That's why I always say that, yeah, when people say wrestling is fake, I say wrestling is a stage sporting entertainment event. Everybody's in on it. Everybody knows the storyline. Everybody knows who's going to win. However, the hazard effect of them showing this entertainment to us is just as real as anything else. There's nothing fake about getting hit in the chair. There's nothing fake about them flying over the top rope and landing. Wrong land, wrong move. They can have their leg broken. They can have their neck snapped. They can be paralyzed, which has happened. They can die in a ring, which has happened recently. Yes, wrestling as an actual event is staged. The physical endurance these wrestlers do will give us this entertainment that we watch and complain about. That's not fake. That is as real as you can get. And yeah, they do suffer massive injuries, massive concussions, and it does take its toll on their lifespan, and not just men, on their insanity. So, before anybody says, "Oh, wrestling is fake," you need to really define the definition of what fake really is, and understand that they're doing a lot to give us entertainment. And China, yeah, she was injured. But I'm kind of curious, again, if the brain tells her that there was more to her injuries than meets the eye. And I'm pretty not sure that at the moment they do, or may not, but if it is, WWE is going to be on the defensive because they're going to look at WWE as usual for her shortcomings in the business. But you may disagree. You may think this is not going to go by the force side. What do you think about this? One thing I will say, again, I'm sad that China's gone. May she finally rest in peace, and I hope people remember not for the off the scenes antics that's happened, but what she have done to entertain us during her time in the business. So again, my heart and prayers goes out to her as well. I will close up with this. I didn't talk about Everybody Loves Raymond too much. Again, I was an off and on show guy. I did recognize the actress who played in it. Her name continued to escape me for some odd reason, but I followed her from Law and Order. She was on an episode where she was facing a family members was trying to do something to take her money and or frame her for something she didn't do, and it ended up backfiring. I'm pretty sure it's criminal intent. That was one of the episodes. It was a good episode, but that got me to watch Everybody Loves Raymond, and I actually liked the show a little bit more. Didn't see the whole entire series and season to season. I just saw bits and pieces on syndicate channels, but she was very, very good. And to me, she has a very long list of stuff she did that I'm actually wanting to check out. But she passed away at 90. The reason why I didn't talk too much about it because, like I said, it's very little that I have actually watched. I know a lot of people who have said that when the stuff that she followed is the stuff of legend as well. She's one of the best veteran actors, and who am I to argue about that? She was in the business for a long time, still be in the business until the time of her death. So that says a lot. So for those who wish to, again, it's unfair for me to say a lot of stuff, especially from that I didn't follow her career as much as probably you guys did. But give me your feeling on the actress who has passed on. To me, she lived a wonderful, blessed life. I think there was no shock when it happened. It was announced on last Sunday. So you just give me your guys' feeling on that. I'll leave it for you guys to do that, and even show me your favorite episode where she was like featured a lot more in. Give me that feeling as well. So that's it, guys. 46 minutes and counting. I gotta end this. I'm not making this be an hour. But again, as usual, it's very, very sad. I wish I didn't have to make this extended podcast, but it is. Stuff happens, and unfortunately, this is the type of format that is needed to be talked about. Lost a lot of stars this couple months. A lot of tough. It's very, very tough for Hollywood. But again, I was asked if I was going to play a song from Purple Rain or any of the songs that he have done. I would love to, but like I said, YouTube slash the Prince Estate will immediately knock this video down the moment I play something from him. They are very, very strict. The minute you play something that is the property of Prince, whether it's the Times or Vanity or even his own work, they will strike it down, no questions asked. And so just, basically saying, pop on a tape like I did and listen to his music, and that's the best way you can do it. Unfortunately, I would love to as a tribute towards him, but YouTube, it's a no-no. With that being said, guys, you guys take care. We'll be back with the regular show in its entirety next week. And until next time, it's Jason saying be safe, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.